This program was produced by Brookdale Community College, Lincroft, New Jersey.
Hello, I'm Jack Needle, Director of the Center for Holocaust Studies at Brookdale Community College, which is presenting this series, Witness to Holocaust. Our survivor guest is Arthur Danziger. Mr. Danziger was born in a small city in Germany. He entered elementary school in 1933, the year that Hitler came to power. The only Jew in his school, this 6-year-old began immediately to face the indignities that confronted Jews under the Nazis. The pressure increased when the Nazis threatened to expel his parents as stateless persons. The child had to mature quick enough to learn how to survive.
I was born in 1926. In Magdeburg, which is in the province of Saxony. And according to the records, I'm the first generation German born of my family. My family originates from Poland. I started school in 1933, elementary school, and I was the only Jewish boy over there.
So you started elementary school the same year that Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany.
Yes, sir. It was very hard because teachers, most of them, were party members, fanaticals, NSDAP. And they were quite vicious in the teaching of hatred to Jews. A la Streicher, or Streicher, whichever way you want to pronounce it. And the kids were really taken to it because it taught them that you could do with other people whatever you want because they were considered inferior.
Now, had you noticed the anti-Semitism before you started school?
Yes, but not to such a degree. Not that there was provocation or attacks on Jews or outrages. Let's put it this way.
Had you noticed brown shirts in the area before you started school, as
Yes.
opposed to after?
Yes, as a matter of fact, not only this, it was at this time it was fashion, fad to hang out swastikas. Whoever was a Nazi member and hung a flag out, and there was a lot of fighting about this in my neighborhood where I lived, because there was a large percentage of communists in that neighborhood. So what they were doing, they tried to pull down the flags with ropes and stones.
So it was a working class area?
Yes, it was absolutely a working class area. And a large percentage of them until Hitler were communists.
So there was a lot of street fighting?
Absolutely, and the people in that neighborhood came out second best all the time because the police was absolutely against them.
After Hitler came to power, was there a change in the politics of the neighborhood?
Absolutely, everybody hurried to become a party member if he could. I remember my neighbor, who was quite active in Communist Party. He escaped of going in concentration camp because his brother was inspector in the police department. And what they did with him, they put him in the army. He had 3 children, matter of fact, and they got him in the army. which saved him from winding up in a concentration camp. On the other hand, there were people, Nazis over there, who went in 1936, they went to Spain, Condor. So there was a mixture. But most percentage after 33, there was no such a thing as communists.
Now, returning to your elementary school days,
Yes, sir.
can you tell us what happened to you as a...
Well, one of the things is there was teacher was encouraging the kids to act against me, since I was the only representative of Jews.
You were the only Jewish child in the school?
The only Jewish guy in the school. And on account of, I would say, on account of the teaching of the teachers, the kids had free hand to do whatever they want, which they did. I wound up being held down quite often, winding up drinking urine, being forced down. They would come with a bottle and just pour it down.
Were there a few ringleaders, or was this by and large the largest part of the group?
It was the attitude.
It was the attitude of all
Yes,
of them?
It was the attitude of everybody. Also, they got a kick out of this. In those days, you still had horses to catch you and put your face in manure. And it sounds ridiculous now when you think about it, but children can be quite cruel, and they were. Because, I don't know, I'm 65 now. I didn't think that way when I was 6. But it's, I would say it was might without morals. You know, they had powers and they abused it.
Did you ever report this, or did your parents ever
Yes.
report this?
My mother reported the teacher and also the activities of the kids. And the principal of school, who was an old-fashioned guy from before Hitler's time, he said, "Miss Danziger, I can give you one advice. Get out of the country." So, which means there was no relief or that they could reprimand us or something. The teacher would beat you without provocation. And I don't know. I remember being a kid, my parents telling me, I would come home crying, telling them to dye my hair. And it's in the beginning, 1933, there was a habit of Hitler had this kind of attitude of parades with a lot of flags. And if you were unlucky and you run into one of those parades, either you got beat up because you didn't salute, or you got beat up because you were Jewish and you saluted. So, whichever way you did wrong. So if I could, because I wouldn't be that stupid to go to a parade. It's by coincidence I run into that. And I always wound up being beat up by grown-ups. So this wasn't the most pleasurable thing.
In 1933, when Hitler came to power, he instituted a boycott on Jewish businesses. Did your store become a target of the boycott?
Yes. Yes, but my father closed the store. He just closed it. Of course, he had painted Judah and a Star of David on the window. And also they had slogans, who buys from Jews is a traitor, and things like this. And the SS would discourage people to go into a store. Some people just ignored it and went ahead, but it was minorities. You could count them on the fingers, because nobody would stick out his neck for a Jew, regardless. Of course, every German had a good Jew. You talk with everybody, even after the war. My neighbor was a good Jew.
Did they help?
They helped in a certain way. My parents taught me, because my parents were left Germany in 1940, during the war. And the reason they left in 1940 is because my uncle in Holland deposited dollars American money in Switzerland. And on account of this money, they were allowed to leave the country. My father was a Majdanek before it became concentration.
Camp, yeah.
It was a camp for prisoner of war, Polish prisoner of war. And the transport my father came with were stateless and German Jews. And they were brought over there to expand, to build additional barracks for the SS, which I already had planned to fill them up with Jews. But when they were over there, was Wehrmacht over there. And the funny thing over there was that the commander of the camp was not an anti-Semite, because the whole transport came back to Germany. It doesn't mean that they didn't go back later on, but at that time, my father with all those people came back before the SS came.
So Majdanek, which was a camp in Lublin, then
Yes.
Before it became a murder camp,
Was a prisoner of war.
was a prisoner of war camp.
Polish prisoner of war.
Then, and it was under the Wehrmacht,
That's right.
then, rather than the SS, the Teutoburg.
Yes, before they came. And my mother was in 1938, on October 28th, on Saturday, I'll never forget this. In Germany, they have school on Saturday. I was at school and I came home and I found my family in tears. And for me, it was a shock to see my father in tears. What had happened, my father and my mother were going in the street and they arrested my mother. And my mother had lived all her life in Germany. And the reason she was in Poland was, in those days, in 1900 or when it was, the mother went to have the baby with her mother. So she went and had my mother in near Yaroslav, Galicia. And she came back when my mother was 3 weeks old. So my mother wasn't Polish. She didn't know Polish. Matter of fact, she didn't know Yiddish, because it was funny how many children there were. 1, 2, 3. There were 5 children. They were all born in Poland. And nobody lived in Poland. So what happened, they arrested her as a Polish citizen, and they sent her over the border. And one of those result of this was Greenspan in Paris.
The Greenspan.
Von Rath.
The assassination of
And Kristallnacht after that. Yeah. So my mother, they were sent to no man's land. The Polacks didn't want them, and the Germans didn't let them. So they were sitting over there. Finally, they put them in a barn in Poznan, a city in corridor, the Polish corridor. And the next day they came and they arrested my grandmother, who was in her late 60s. And they sent her through the border, and they came back. The whole transport, because the Poles wouldn't let nobody come in anymore. So, an elderly lady, she lost all her suitcases and things like this. But she came back. And she emigrated to Holland later on, before me. My uncle sent papers to her. And now coming back to school, we drifted away from that. I got kicked out. I was told that I couldn't attend school anymore at the age of 10. And
so you only had 4 years of schooling?
Yes, sir. I had 4 years at school and never got a chance to catch up, because after I came to Holland, it was occupied in May 10, 40. And it was the end of the education. And I lived in Amsterdam from
No, the family then was separated because they were considered stateless persons.
Yes.
But you were born in Germany, so
Yes,
so you
so-
were left behind.
No, this happened after I was in Holland.
This was
No,
now
only my mother was before me.
only your mother was before.
Yes, my mother was before me. My sister went with the Kindertransport in 1938 to England, and they were in Scotland. And there was Lord Balfour in Whittingham. He had the estate, and he donated it to the refugees, the Kindertransport. She stayed over there during the war, and later on she served in the British Army, the Women Corps, the WACs, or whatever they called it. And I went to school after this, in Germany. I was over there till 38. I was with my father. We had to give up, my father had to give up his store to a Gentile. And my father and I, we moved into a furnished room with some other Jewish lady who I saw, funny, strangely, on a documentary over here on Channel 13. On our way to being deported to Poland, on a station. And not only did I recognize her, but she had a suitcase on which was written her name and address in Germany. So she went to Poland with her son. And I don't know, I remember after my mother got arrested, I remember the Germans coming into the Nazis in brown uniforms, the SA, coming in and starting screaming and hollering and beating. And my father had a stateless passport, but it was issued by the Germans, and it had a swastika on this. German ID paper. And they didn't know what to do with him, so they let him go. I thought he was a German citizen. But, I don't know, thousands of people were arrested that night and sent to concentration camps. And some of them came back out and they emigrated, because at that time they were not contemplating genocide, I guess.
Do you remember which camps you heard of at that time?
Dachau, Buchenwald, Sachsenhausen. Bergen-Belsen wasn't in there, not yet. It were the three main ones, Buchenwald, Sachsenhausen, and I remember the Kristallnacht. For some unknown reason, I was in the street, and I saw what was going on. They were breaking windows, and those were not civilians. Those were party members.
In uniform?
Some of them uniform, some not. And the police and everybody was standing by, and they were breaking up windows and throwing stuff out in the streets, like in the riots over here. Interesting was, besides the Nuremberg laws, which many people are probably familiar with it, and which I don't have to repeat, which allowed you nothing. You couldn't go in public places, you couldn't use transportation without permission. You couldn't be active in trade.
The Nuremberg laws were passed in 1935,
Yes.
and Kristallnacht is 1938.
In 1938, yes. It was November 9. But Nuremberg came out, and really the purpose of this was to put them out of circulation, out of the German life. And first of all government employees were fired. All lawyers were not allowed to take Gentiles. No Jew was allowed to have a Jewish employee over a certain age. And there were trade restrictions, very severe. And matter of fact, you as professor of history, I don't have to tell you what the Nuremberg laws did to the Jewish population, and what was the purpose. The purpose was to make Germany unite. And whoever could did go, and who couldn't wound up in Poland. They were resettled. And what was their end, the final solution?
Now, how did you get to Holland?
I went with a Kindertransport. Kindertransport were youngsters till the age of 18, something like that, who were separate from their parents. And most of them didn't see their parents anymore as of that date. And I remember seeing my father brought me until the place where they switched over, which was Hanover. And I went on a train, and it was in August 1939. And I saw him again in 1946, 8 years later. And anyway, then what's going on? I was on this Kindertransport, and I was the only one who got up. I wasn't aware who was aware what was going to happen later on, but my uncle came.
So the original destination of the Kindertransport was to take you to England.
That's right.
But you got off in Amsterdam.
No, on the border.
On the border.
On the border, my uncle picked me on the border, because Kindertransport, he went straight to the port in Hoek van Holland.
I see.
They didn't stop anyway, they just went to the boat. And I guess that is all fate had it in for me to stay in Holland. And I don't know, it was very, very hard, and it was very, very upsetting, because I was at that age, 12. And I had never been away from home. And I don't know, you came over there and you felt like an outsider in the country. You felt like the children. I remember in school it was very strange. The Dutch children, the Jewish children, they used to call me Rotmop, which is a derogatory expression for German. And I said, you shouldn't call me anything. You're just like me, you're dirty Jews. And I felt completely lost, and I didn't feel German, I didn't feel Dutch, I felt Jewish. And the kids couldn't understand that, because at that time Holland was Holland, and it was normal. They felt citizens of Holland. And I felt like an outsider, and I had a tough time adjusting, because it sticks to you. It sticks to you. I'm 65 now, and I still have residues of that period on me. I got nightmares. You get, in that age when you're 6, you get an inferior feeling. You feel you're less than everybody else. And this goes through life with you. It's not something you are free all of a sudden, and you feel different on account of that. It's not the point. That's not right. You always feel less somebody else because this was beaten into your head as a kid. You don't lose it.
Do you remember listening to Hitler's speeches in Holland?
Yes, I do. Yes.
I know that they had them broadcast in America. No one except the German-speaking could hear them, but they were broadcast here.
Well, they were broadcast more in Europe.
Yes, they would have very little meaning here, but they would be a threat if they were broadcast.
They were broadcast, and they were quite effective in their propaganda because, I don't know, as a child I couldn't judge it so much. I'm talking about my impression now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well,
we know that he did that to intimidate other nations, and Holland was neutral.
And Holland was neutral, but like any other country in Europe, there were a lot of sympathizers.
Do you remember much about a Dutch Nazi party?
Yes, it was not very dominant before the war, but it expanded to a great degree. As a matter of fact, there were a lot of volunteers who went into the SS from Holland. And the leader over there was Mossad. And there were quite a number of Dutch people who were sympathetic to Germans. Like many people in Europe, in my impression, they were under the impression that they were invincible. And they accepted that, and they tried to get them on board of the train.
Do you remember what your feelings were, or do you remember where you were and who you were with when the Germans invaded Poland on September 1st, 1939?
I remember I was in Holland, and I remember the broadcast, and I was not surprised for some unknown reason that they did it.